I've been dashing for a little over a year now, and not once have I had any dangerous or scary incidents. Until about a week ago, and honestly, I'm still not sure how to completely feel about the whole situation. I'll start off by saying it was pretty late at night, near midnight if I remember correctly. I had just parked my car at the customer's destination when I received a text message. I checked my phone and noticed it was from the random number given when and if you're having a conversation with the customer. Kate was her name. All the text said was to just leave the pizza by the front door. At first, I didn't think anything of it. Some people don't even want to be bothered with answering the door, so whatever, it was fine with me. I made my way towards her apartment, and as I went to lay the pizza on the welcome mat, I could hear a faint noise behind her front door. I wasn't trying to jump to any conclusions, but I swear it sounded like a quick muffled crying. So I sat the pizza down and backed up a bit. Moments later, the front door slowly opened a few inches. I could tell it was stopped from the inside from one of those chain locks. She looked at me through the crack in the door. Her eyes were glossy red. I could tell right away that something wasn't right, so I whispered out asking if everything was okay. I didn't want whoever else was in that apartment to hear me and maybe cause a bigger problem. She nodded her head yes as she knelt down, and with one hand she grabbed the pizza box and twisted it so she could slide it through the crack of the door. I found it extremely odd that she wouldn't even open the door to get it. That's when I glanced beyond her, past the living room, and could see into the kitchen area. There appeared to be a tall man, just standing there. But not as if he was comfortable walking around in his own place. He was standing by the back door, almost as if he was waiting for something, or waiting to do something. I don't know how else to explain it other than it was very intimidating. So I asked her once again if she was okay, and she quickly nodded her head yes, this time shutting the door. I felt chills throughout my whole body as I slowly headed back to my car. Once I was safe inside, I thought about calling customer care and letting them know what happened, but I didn't know how I should go about the whole thing. I kept trying to tell myself that I was thinking too far into it and that it was nothing, but I could tell she was crying and she wouldn't unlock her door, and the way that guy was just standing there fucking creeped me out. I'll never know what truly happened, but it couldn't have been good. It was a beautiful day. I was getting order after order, feeling good. That was all about to be ruined though. I received an order from Chipotle and picked it up in record time. Upon leaving the restaurant, I messaged the customer letting him know I would be arriving shortly. A few minutes passed and he texted me back saying he stepped out real quick and to leave the food in his garage because he left the door open for me. This wasn't too out of the ordinary for me. There's been multiple times where the customer will let me know that they have to head out real quick and to leave the food in a certain spot. So I texted back, sure thing, and continued on to deliver the food. Once I found the address, I did notice the garage door was wide open. So I looked around. It seemed I was in a nice and safe area. I decided to leave my car running while I dropped the food off real quick. Upon entering the garage, I noticed it was mostly empty, but there was oil spills here and there on the pavement, so I didn't know exactly where to put it. Then I seen a red little tub by the door that led into the house. I figured that's most likely where the customer wanted me to drop the food off. I walked over, and as I placed the bag into the tub, I heard a noise that shook me. My body stiffened up, and I hadn't even turned around yet, but it was the sound of the garage door shutting. I instantly started to panic as the door shut all the way, filling the garage with complete darkness. I tried to tell myself maybe the customer just got back and thought I was gone by now, but that didn't help. I was ready to freak the hell out. I was frozen in fear, and the worst part was that I left my phone in my damn car. Eventually, I started to inch my way towards the wall, knowing there had to be a button to open the door back up. That's when I heard the sound of the door to the house slowly creak open. The silhouette of a tall man stood in the doorway. Seconds went by. I couldn't tell if he could see me, and I didn't know what to do. Then the garage lights flickered on. His eyes were locked on me right away, with his head tilted as if he was confused. He looked down at his food, then towards my DoorDash bag, so he knew who I was. Then in a calm voice, he said, "Hey, what are you doing in here?" But it was the way that he said it that freaked me out, not in an apologetic kind of way. He said it as if someone were to find a kitten in their garage, not a damn human. He took a step towards me and I lost it. I yelled out, "Open the fucking garage." His face changed to an even more confused look, like he didn't understand the current situation. Then he hit the garage door button, and as soon as I could, I booked it. Once I got to my car, I felt relieved. I got out of that neighborhood, I reported that creep to customer service, but honestly, I just kept working. That dude just seemed more weird than threatening. Still, it was a terrifying experience. So I decided to do some dashing in the middle of getting hit with tons of snow one night. It wasn't the greatest idea I've ever had, but I actually made some decent money that night. There's one delivery I won't be forgetting for a while though. First, I had special instructions to park in the cul-de-sac and walk the rest of the way after arriving at the customer's house. Which sucked because this person had a long driveway and the snow had to have been at least 5 to 6 inches deep now. I'm very observant and I always pay attention to my surroundings. One of the first things I noticed was that this driveway was all fresh snow. No tire tracks, no footprints, nothing. So I figured the owner just doesn't want anybody on his driveway. I made the long trip to his front door and knocked. After he answered, I gave him his order, he thanked me, told me to stay safe, and that was it. As I turned around and started my journey back down the long driveway, I noticed something. Something that had changed in a very unsettling way. As I said before, I'm very observant, so of course this would be something I would notice right away. Leading away from me was another set of footprints. They seemed to be coming from out of the darkness of the woods to the right of me. I was left with no other option than to follow these footprints, as they went towards the direction I needed to go. But the one thing that creeped me out was how big these footprints actually were. These feet had to be at least 3 times my size. Just the sight alone left me feeling uncomfortable. Mostly because they seemed to come out of nowhere. It wasn't until I was close enough to my car to actually notice my driver's side door had been opened that panic really started to set in. The massive footsteps had led straight to my car. My heart started to pound as I was expecting to see some huge 7-foot man lurking around nearby. The scariest part is, I didn't see anybody. I made it to my car and noticed right away that whoever opened my door had gone through my glove compartment also. Goosebumps covered my arms and I felt shivers all over me just knowing somebody had gone through my stuff. Not just someone though, an extremely colossal person. If those footprints were a heart stopper, I'd be terrified to see the rest of that monster. The last thing I noticed before jumping in my car and taking off like a bat out of hell was that those footprints trailed off back into the woods. It all happened so fast, which meant this person probably wasn't too far gone, which also meant they could still be nearby, watching me. I've been delivering for DoorDash for about 3 years now, and I've never had anything this weird or creepy happen to me except for one time. I call this incident the Hell House. I knew from the very moment I found this place it was all bad news. Let me start from the beginning. I pull up to the address given to me, which is basically in the middle of nowhere. It even has one of those dirt path roads that lead to an old creepy house like in the movies. The time was around 7:45, so I had some daylight left, but most of that was covered by the trees that surrounded the property. My only thought was to get this delivered as quickly as possible. After getting out of my car and stepping on the porch, I noticed the front door was missing, like completely off the hinges, gone. So I'm pretty much looking right into the house, not exactly sure if I should knock elsewhere or just yell out that the food's here. From my position, I can see into the living room, straight into the kitchen. All the lights are off, but I see something. The silhouette of an older man in a wheelchair in the middle of the kitchen. At first, I thought it was my eyes messing with me, but then I hear somebody speak. "Just bring it in, will you?" I'm assuming the man in the wheelchair is talking, So I reply back saying legally we're not allowed to enter homes. Seconds later, the same voice says, "Well, I'm not coming out there." It sounds more aggressive than before. I don't really feel like arguing, and like I said before, I really wanted to get this over with quick, so I decided to walk in and bring it to the mysterious man. As I step inside the house, I was hit with the worst smell I've ever been in contact with. It was unbearable. How could anybody be okay with this? On top of that, as I headed to the kitchen, I noticed the man wasn't there anymore. I literally took my eyes off him for a second, and now he's gone. I walked into the kitchen and turned to the right. One of the most disgusting things I've ever seen sat in front of me. Half of the kitchen floor was covered in what looked like kitty litter that hadn't been cleaned in years, which explained where the nasty smell was coming from. I was done. I wasn't wasting any more time in that house. I raced back into the living room area, looking for a table or anywhere to lay the food. But the place was a disaster. There was all kinds of shit everywhere. I don't know if you've ever seen an episode of Hoarders, but this was an extreme case of that. I seen a recliner in the corner that had piles and piles of clothes stacked on it. I figured I'd throw the bag of food on there and get the hell out. But as I got closer, I almost had a heart attack when I noticed an old wrinkly woman's face sticking through the pile of clothes. She had this creepy smile frozen on her. To be honest, I'm not even sure if she was still alive. My anxiety was so high I couldn't even think straight. I finally said screw it and left the bag of food on the floor. On the way out, I looked down the dark hallway. There was that creepy man in the wheelchair. Once again, just sitting in the dark watching me as if I was some intruder. I didn't say a word this time. Instead, I quickly left that hell house and made it to my car in one piece. That's definitely the last time I go into a customer's house. I don't care what they say.